Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Revive to Stage, the Revive Stronger podcast with myself, Steve Hall, and my buddy Pascal Flor, all the way from Germany, as per usual. And we are checking in to talk about hopefully quite a relevant topic. I think I've seen it come up a few times on social media recently, and I think it is appropriate given that social media is becoming ever more expansive, and especially the one platform we're going to be talking about, Instagram. So to start off this kind of chat, I thought it's good to touch on, and me and Pascal talked about it just beforehand, where Instagram started. So I don't know how long I've had Instagram for now, but it's been ages. And I know when it first came out, I wasn't really that fussed, and it was very much based around photography. So it was like just photos, and it was for photographers to have kind of a online portfolio. And I guess a good way to maybe envisage that is like we have our Team Revive Stronger page, and that's kind of like our online portfolio of testimonials from clients, and that's what we post there. But now it's very much developed and changed into a proper social media platform in which we have people like me, and Pascal and other people like fitness gurus, celebrities, and just people in general. There's a lot of food porn on there, we know that. And this is where you can you post, some people post value, and we try to do with our infographics, which I think is very helpful. People post recipes, which again, I think is really helpful. But within the fitness industry, and something we have noticed is there's a hell of a lot of physique shots and people looking perfect. It's very much become like a magazine of sorts, of like the Flex magazine with all the perfectly shot images, and you scroll through your feed, and I know even if I go on my search function, it's like just tons of jack guys and females with like the best asses ever. And we wanted to touch on, and Pascal recently shared on his Facebook, was commentary, I think it was from the 3DMJ podcast, which I've also now listened to, in which they talked about how and whether social media, and in particular Instagram, is having a positive or a negative impact on people, or maybe even just neutral, and what impact is that? And especially during your off season, it becomes kind of potentially difficult for some people to see all these shredded physiques all the time that look perfect. And even people who are maybe in their off season looking really lean and good, we don't know any context behind that for the most part. It's very kind of just on the surface. You don't really see anything behind it. I think Instagram's good because it's got its stories function, so you do see more background and things like this. But I think there's a lot of accounts and a lot of fitness guys where you don't see the kind of the drugs, the eating disorders, the difficulty with their self-body image behind what's being presented. And so as an off-season person, you can see that, and that might hold you back in terms of accepting yourself, because you continuously compare yourself against these perfect images, which you wake up to every day and you're like, fuck, that guy's still shredded, but I thought he was in his off-season. And someone like Alberto Nunez, that's fine, because he actually explains the reasoning behind his leaner physique, but a lot of people don't. And then you have people like me who are dieting, and I still go on there and I see other people who are in contest prep who maybe they have years under their belt and they're shredded. They have huge like quads, massive like muscle bellies, amazing separation. They're like a genetic freak potentially. And I get kind of disheartened at my own progress. And sometimes it makes me want to maybe give up my diet or not push as hard or push too hard. And it makes me question what I'm doing. So I think there's loads of kind of discussion that can surround this topic. And hopefully I've done justice to introducing it. And I know Pascal can probably develop on some of these points. But first of all, I guess the good thing is with us is we have Pascal who's in his off season. I'm who in contest prep. And then I think Pascal is also less in the limelight at the moment, at least for Revive Stronger. And I'm more so in it, especially. And that just goes to show one of us is in contest prep, the other one's not. And that's kind of partly why. And so I think we'll get some good discussion going forward. So I'll open the floor to Pascal I don't know where you want to start.
Yeah, amazing introduction. Like, really,
Woo.
this was what I was hoping for. I was actually, just to give a little bit of context, I was asking Steve to introduce this time because I know that sometimes when I explain things that I'm not as fluent, which absolutely makes sense. I'm a German guy, right? I mean, I'm not a mother's tongue of English language, but I give my best, as you might all know. But yeah, so where do I want to start with this one? I think the first and most important thing I want to throw out there is to say that, of course, this topic isn't black and white. That's for sure. I mean, I think that social media has some downsides to it, but also big pros. Like, for example, I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. Most of the time it's not really like good to translate it over to the fitness industry, but when it comes to sales and stuff, because he's mostly talking about sales stuff. But there's one point he made about social media and the development of the internet revolution. He calls it what was it, internet 2.0 or something. Anyway, he talks about the benefits of what social media actually brought to us and all the opportunities that came along with that. And I think that this is something we shouldn't forget. And this is something I wanted to point out first, because I think that social media and the internet in general gave us so many opportunities which wouldn't have been possible like ages ago. Like the like older generations, we grew up like in between, right? We know the time like pre-internet. We grew up with and not being as connected as we are nowadays. So we can really relate and compare it to each other. And I think that what we are able to do nowadays because of internet and the social media is amazing. We can, let's say, Jacob, JPS Fitness, sitting in Australia, and we can interact with each other. We can record podcasts with people who are sitting in the US, like, without any problems. Amazing things, yeah? And also that social media can act as a motivator. But on the other hand, when we get back into the actual topic of the question if it hinders your progress or if it keeps you back from actually achieving or becoming the best athlete or version of you as possible, I can see that there are potentially some downsides to the social medias in general. Instagram, because Instagram is so superficial, it only touches on the surface. Most people only share like the best images of themselves and share only like the perfect scenario, like
Highlight reel, I think, is a
totally. I mean, I'm not sitting on the toilet and recording myself while I'm sitting there at 5 in the morning with big bags under my eyes, perhaps when I'm super ill or something, and say, hey, look at me. This isn't what's going to happen, right? Most of the time, what you can see is having a full pump, being at the gym in the perfect lighting, then taking a selfie or something like that, editing it. And when you take a look at the big Instagram accounts, there are people behind it who actually take photos for the people. So professional photographers who take images for them, edit them so that they look even better, so that they are then able to post it. And most of the time, the people who are then in shape take so many pictures in that time frame, like around 1 month, pre-show or post-show, take 1,000 images so that they are then able to post these kind of images throughout the whole year, which then when I'm on the other end and I'm perhaps someone who dealt with adipose phobia in the past, take a look at those kind of images each and every single day, and I'm trying to become a better athlete, building some muscle mass and already having a hard time because of the background of adipose phobia. And when I'm then confronted with the perfect bodies, the perfect physiques, that everyone is always in shape, I get the perception of that I need to look like this as well, which then makes the off season, and this is now in my case, way harder than it needs to be. Hence, it could perhaps kind of decrease the rate in which I would normally make gains, if that sums it up to some extent.
Yeah, I completely understand that, and I think I've posted about it before, and I think it really comes down to, as an individual, looking at social media and for taking it for what it is. And yeah, I think just thinking to yourself, and like, when do you post that you're not going to post a photo of yourself looking your worst on social media and showing the world that photo, because why would you ever do that? That's just not something you would do. So these other accounts are doing the exact same. They're showing their best. You never put your worst foot forward. Like, that just makes no sense. Like, if I wanted to, I could make my physique look like a piece of crap, and I just would never do that, because I'm not going to get as many likes. I'm not going to get many good feels, and just why would I ever do that? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I know Mike Israetel's talked about it before, and it's like, well, and you can easily have this comparison as a bodybuilder. During your cutting phase, it's all about posting kind of physique shots. You're looking lean, like you're really happy with how you're looking. In your off season, you're posting mostly food and social events and things like that, because that's what is kind of your focus, your drive at that time. And I guess it then becomes it is a question of, does it become a responsibility of the person posting to make people aware that this is them in the past and this is them in the present, and to sometimes remind people of that? Or is it a responsibility of the people looking from the outside in to realize that that is highlight reel, that isn't the reality of that person's kind of life right now? And I mean, as someone who, I've been on Instagram for a long time, and we do this podcast and we're very open and honest, and I always try my best to make it as real as possible. I think some people say there's like a line to draw in terms of how much you should share and how much of your life you should give away. And I can understand that. But for me, as someone with clients who I care about, who are looking at my account, looking at my progress, I try and just be as open and honest and share absolutely everything, because I know how much people value that. But at the same time, if I take a shot of my physique and I don't like the look of it, I'm not posting it up, because I don't want to do that. It doesn't make me feel good to ever do that. Whereas if I find some good lighting and my physique, like, I'm impressed by how I'm looking, I might then post that up. And that's just it's just how people interact with these things. Yeah, it's a really sticky situation, because then you're like, are you presenting a false reality to people? And I guess, well, yeah, you are kind of in some respects, but I think it is on the person using that platform to realize that is what it is. Like, that is what you're going to get. You don't want to see. That's why it's like it's like posting up an amazing food that you've made that's like, it's all like a flex bowl that's got like Pop-Tarts and sweets and everything, because that's exciting, that's cool. You're not posting up your boring chicken and rice and broccoli all the time. But when you do post the amazing food, maybe you make people aware that you do also eat, the rest of your diet looks like this. And maybe when you are looking your best and amazing, maybe sometimes you remind people, I don't look like this all the time. It was just a really good shot. I guess that's a way you can balance it out.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And you've brought up some really interesting points I wanted to touch on. First, I wanted to touch on the question of whose responsibility is it? Is it the ones who are posting stuff, or is it the consumer itself? And I think it's more so the consumer than the ones who are posting it, simply because it's the same. I was complaining about my protein and the products of the brownie and the skinny brownie.
Yeah.
Both are actually the same product, but with a different package. And the skinny brownies are just a marketing product, kind of, right? And it's not the fault of MyProtein, because it all is based on supply and demand. And this applies also to Instagram profiles. So the people are actually, they want to see physiques like that on a daily basis. They do like all the kind of ripped physique, the big butts. They get the most likes. And in the world of Instagram, the currency there are likes, right? And this then gives those kind of shots more value, more people see it, and it's all then, again, supply and demand. And if the customer wouldn't really give those kind of likes, so the currency to those kind of shots, the nature would change of Instagram. The pictures would change as well, right? So I think that it boils down to the customer.
Go ahead. Say it's such a good point. It's such a good point because I think so many people are feeling, and I think it's easy to feel this, and I feel it to some extent as well. They kind of feel victimized by these big accounts who are getting these professional photo shoots done, who are editing their photos and making them look amazing. But if you honestly ask yourself, what photos are you liking? You are liking the ones that look the best, and they just typically do. And so you're asking that person to put up a photo that you're not probably going to even like. Why would they ever do that? It's not going to do what they want it to do. And it's like MyProtein, like they're not going to post up like this. They're not going to supply just brownies and just like, this is just a high protein brownie. That's all it is. Like they're going to give you a skinny brownie that's pink and like has this many calories in, even though it's like the same as the other one, because it's now packaged this way, it's going to get more sales. It's all about, like you said, the currency. I wanted to reinforce how good a point that was, because I think sometimes, and like we can feel victimized when we have to realize we're part of the problem in some ways.
Yeah, and it's absolutely hard to come to the realization and also accept that actually it comes down to you and you are responsible for it. And it's so easy, and this applies to every single aspect in life. It's so easy to actually point the finger to someone else and say it is their fault and they are the reason for it. Everyone else is bad, but your decisions are the right ones, right? And it's so fucking hard to come to the realization and also to the acceptance to say, okay, actually, it's my responsibility. If I want to change something, then it's first I need to change something about my behavior, right? And I mean, if you were to have a problem with Instagram and everything that is going on there, the easiest thing would be to delete your account and delete Instagram, like in general, right? Yeah. If you were to blame the others for actually posting it. But because this wouldn't change, you can't really like think that this will change because you are annoyed of it. Like the majority of people, if they are annoyed of it, then the demand would change, actually. The product would change. Like, let's say the example of the skinny brownies. MyProtein would throw it out of their product range if it wouldn't be sold, right? Yeah. If the demand wouldn't be there anymore. And so I think that, it boils down to the responsibility of the customer itself. And when I then think about it for myself, I know that I'm influenced by those kind of pictures. But it's also really hard to keep things in perspective because I'm simply consuming and I'm literally not thinking of what I'm actually looking at that given moment. I'm driven by my emotions. And this is most of the time not the best thing to do, especially not in that kind of case. But it's so easy when you're in that zone, in that state where you're just scrolling through all the pictures, right? To just be in an emotional state and not in a rational state. Because when you're in a rational state, you wouldn't scroll through Instagram. That's it, right? You would go do something else with your time, which is more productive instead of kind of literally wasting your time on just scrolling through it, because in the end you don't have anything out of it. But this is then the actual downside to it, because you are scrolling through it emotionally, and this then translates over to your cognitive function, because you're then comparing yourself automatically to other people, your situation to other people, your body image to other people, which then could potentially lead you to make rash decisions, and also that you are then spinning your wheels and not getting to the point where you actually want to go to. And you can see with so many really good bodybuilders who are kind of a ghost in their off season. You don't hear from them at all, like for the off season, and then boom, competition time comes on, they're getting on stage and they look amazing, and they did actually improve. And for me, this raises the question, is this then the approach you want to take, or do we simply need to learn to live with the platform itself, because it's the modern age, and the internet and the digital media platforms are simply in our lives now. We need to actually learn to deal with it and come to the realization that it's down to us to take 2 steps back and keep things in perspective. Those are the questions that then run through my head, actually.
Yeah, this is a huge topic, and actually you made me think of something in that we know that when you diet, you become a bit more food focused. You kind of get, if there's a lot of variety of food in your house, if there's tasty food in your house, if the more you see it, you get decision fatigue. You have to choose not to have it. And sometimes we find, okay, removing it and avoiding it is the best thing to do, because that keeps us under control and we don't have those temptations. The same with social media. You can pick and choose who you follow, or like whether you follow the accounts at all. And I think that's a good way to self-monitor and control that as a consumer of it. And then I think it'd be good to talk about a bit of like as producers of content, because we do produce content for our audience as well. And we do provide, I do provide some of those photos where people are like, oh, that guy's shredded, like hashtag goals or something. And in some respects, we can already see that the demand is changing, and we are changing what we're putting on there. Like the infographic, like growth has been huge, and people are consuming the hell out of those, which I think is fantastic. We're able to give bite-sized information to a huge audience, and the audience are lapping it up, which I think is really good, especially as someone like our account, which is, I mean, for the most part, we're just a coaching and education platform. And so we want to provide that education. And if we can do it via the infographics and they're doing well, that's awesome. I know people like also to see how I'm doing. They like seeing training footage, and I always provide value behind each of those posts. And I think that is something I wanted to bring up, in that, yes, I provide the value there because it hopefully will lead to people thinking we know our shit, which we do, and then they want coaching from us potentially, which is awesome. But I also do it there because I feel like as a personal trainer, as a coach, as someone with eyes on them, I have a responsibility to provide value, to provide context, to be honest. And I think that's the same for like when you think about celebrities who sell products, like Ronaldo. I think I've seen him selling this like thing that contracts your abdominals, and on the advert it's looking like, oh, Ronaldo has his abs because he wears this ab trainer, which we all know is complete fucking bollocks. But or is it? That's the thing. People will buy this product because Ronaldo is promoting it. And I think celebrities have a responsibility to when they say things, people believe them. They see them as a bit of an authority, even if they're really not. And I think they have a responsibility to actually be a human being, and like actually be like, right, I did this diet, it worked for me. I'm not saying it's the be all and end all, but so many of them will sell a whole book on it or something along those lines. So I think as someone who is a content producer, you have a responsibility to your audience to be honest, to provide them with some value and context sometimes, because I think that if you can't just, it's like there is a balance there. I think like My Protein, when they just give the demand that's there, I still think we have an ability to be a bit like, right, My Protein, you're pushing the bounds a little bit there. There's a bit of kind of to and fro within that.
No, that's again really interesting and brings up so many ideas I want to touch on. But the main thing I want to actually talk about in that regard is that we need to take into consideration the different kind of profiles on Instagram and on social media. Not everyone is like you, a coach who should give out value and also should be hopefully as transparent as possible and as honest as possible. Because I mean, some Instagram profiles are simply there for marketing purposes. Like, we are doing some kind of marketing as well, but it is kind of different to, let's say, a company who sells shirts or a photographer or someone like that, right? So the different profiles are, of course, acting differently. And I don't really see a big problem in promoting stuff and trying to sell stuff, because this is what Instagram is also about. But of course, I do agree with you that the ones who have a big follower base and who are a person, and that's really important actually, those are the ones who should be honest with their audience, and also if they are trying to sell something, that they are honest about the product itself, which can make it really hard when you throw out something like the example of Ronaldo, because he's only the face of the product and he gets paid to represent it, right? And this is something we have seen in the past, not just on social media, but when social media didn't or wasn't existent, we did see something like that on commercials and TV as well, that there was a face which then was representative for the brand itself, or got they paid the actor to actually represent the brand, but the actor wasn't really behind it. He was simply the face for it, because then the people would go out and identify the product with it. And I think that there's kind of, I'm kind of drawn between two lines, because I think, yes, those kind of people, they have a responsibility because they are heard from so many people, and they are easily then to believe that everything they are selling and everything they are saying is actually the truth, and it's obviously not. But on the other hand, I can also see and understand those kind of actors or sports people who are simply there for entertaining purposes, who are then simply making money, right? I mean, there's this kind of ethical question of what is acceptable in making money, making profit, and what is acceptable of the perception you're giving to the people and the products you're giving to the people, how much honesty it then needs to have and how transparent you need to be. And there's kind of like a balance between the two, right? Go to one side too much and it's not the right thing, and go to the other side and you're not getting that much of benefit or provide that much of benefit perhaps. But as Gary Vee, again, is also saying, and I think that the mentality is nowadays kind of transitioning over to being more honest and transparent because of social media, that you can see and follow politicians on a daily basis and see what they are doing on a minute basis, actually. So honesty and transparency gets more and more important for the bigger companies as well, because they can't get away any longer with just selling something, because the internet and everyone is so connected now. And if a product doesn't really provide the things that they are claiming that it provides, it immediately gets smashed by the community because someone in Australia bought it and someone in the UK bought it, and both are getting on the same train. And in the past, it was just like you were bound to your local area, right?
Yeah.
So it is changing, and I think that this is also translating, to get back into the fitness industry, translating into the fitness industry, that things are getting more transparent for the individuals, that more off-season physiques are getting shared, that not highly edited photos are being shared and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I think just to briefly touch on it, I think social media for me has been good because it does keep me accountable. It bullshit tests me, so I don't just put out any old rubbish, because I know people will like I'll get all the what's it called, the Nazi sorry, I'm talking to a German about Nazis now. I'm doing the PubMed warriors, the Nazi PubMed warriors. But something I did want to touch on for the last kind of, 10, 15 minutes that we've got is, before we started the podcast, you spoke about how it has impacted you. And I thought it would be good for the listeners to hear on how it has impacted both of us on a personal level. So you felt like, I believe you can probably, you can adjust what I say here, but it kind of, you hadn't shared any physique shots since the start of your off season, and you feel like it potentially has held you back a little bit. So I'd love you to talk about that a little bit. And I think
sure, I try to keep it brief, because you know me, I'm rambling all the time, and especially when it comes to stuff like that. So I really try to keep it brief. So I was so committed, and I was so on my routine and plan when I did my contest prep. And once I needed to pull the plug, I was feeling simply lost and kind of, I wasn't really part of the community anymore. At least that's how I felt, because the people I do care about most, I did see them still being in their contest prep, stepping on stage now. A lot of friends of mine are competing, clients, all that kind of stuff. And now the season, especially in the UK, is fully running, and you can see all the kind of physiques on a daily basis. And you're getting kind of disappointed, frustrated, disheartened with your own progress. And for me, it was like, accepting the fact that I need to actually build some more mass, because I'm a skinny and a tiny little dude, actually. I unfortunately, and I actually need to take some time to really build some mass now. That, of course, comes with the fact of gaining a little bit of fluff. But I had a really hard time. I have a hard time accepting the fact that I'm losing my conditioning and I need to gain some fluff, especially when now being confronted each and every single day with amazing physiques from you, Steve, from someone like AJ and stuff like that. And this sounds really egoistic, and I'm terribly sorry all the time when I'm saying that out loud, but looking and following your journey was extremely hard for me. Yeah, and this isn't because I'm not supporting you. I really do, and I love to actually follow your journey and be at your side, be your body. But on the other hand, there's this one guy here and the other guy here, right? So the supporter, and then the really egoistic person who is highly emotional, who only focuses on his own progress. And he had a really hard time to then actually look at all those physiques, thinking in the back of his head that he could have been on stage there as well. And then accepting the fact, okay, I'm getting fatter and fatter, and I don't have everything under control anymore. And I felt like a failure, and I still feel like kind of a failure in some regards. And this already is present in my state of being since I dropped out of the contest prep, right? And in that regard, talking about that, like being confronted with those kind of physiques, it could act as a motivator for some people, and I also for me in my situation. But right now, it is actually really hindering me in accepting to transition fully into the off season, to fully focus on my training, to nail down my nutrition on a daily basis because of my mental barrier. And this is simply because also the influence and impact social media has on me.
I mean, first of all, I want to say that I hate hearing it. I hate to feel like me and my journey is kind of negatively impacting someone else's, and especially someone so close to me. Partly because I feel like there's nothing I can really do about it, because I have to continue to push forward and progress. And I know you do have both. So if you did really want to not hear about anything, you could. But totally. That also wouldn't help our relationship as a whole. That would make it difficult. And I think if I'm completely honest, I have felt the other guy. I have noticed the other guy, and I have at times prevented sharing things with you because I felt like it was almost rubbing it in your face. But I think at the same time, it's good for you to see my progress, to see what's going on, and to try and kind of, and I have the same thoughts with that. I have that other person there. I have that other person there right now looking at I hear about your bench press progress. I hear about, and I've seen your upper body progress. And I'm and I see other people in their off season. I'm like, man, they're all getting really good results. They're all getting jacked, and I'm just getting skinnier and skinnier. And in the same regard, I do see someone like AJ or other people in their contest prep who are looking better and better, and then that drives me forward, but also in some ways drives me back, because I'm never going to look like that. My physique isn't as good as theirs, and it's really bad. Not bad, but as a coach, we're all human beings. We all compare ourselves to other people.
Absolutely.
If we were to compare ourselves to Mike Israetel, look at him in his off season. He's making huge gains. Or someone like Jared Feather, who's a bit of a genetic elite. It just becomes really difficult. And I think what I got from what you were talking about, and what I have to always pull myself back and do, is focus on myself, focus on my own progress and how I'm doing. Because once you do that, you compare yourself against something that's actually a comparable thing. And it upsets me to think, and I have said it before, I don't feel like I made the most out of my off season between 2014 and this year. I think I made progress, but nowhere near as much progress as I want to have made. But on the other hand, how am I even gauging that? Because I've made the progress I've made. Mm-hmm. Other people might have made more progress. There might have been people who made less, but that might have been all the progress they could have made. So I think always be really honest with yourself and what you're doing, and focus on what you want to get out of things, because that's all you can do. Again, it comes back to you, the individual, taking responsibility for your actions. It is a real hurdling thing. And so for me, if I just briefly touch on other impacts social media has had on me is, I guess I do sometimes look at photos I've taken, and I am picking and choosing which ones I want to put up, because I do think some I'm not looking my best, and some doesn't have favorable lighting, and that impacts me. And then at other times I get very tempted to edit photos because I can make them look better, and I tend not to. I have edited some. Normally it's adding dark, what's it called when you add dark backgrounds or something?
Vignette.
Yeah, that one. I don't sharpen them. I don't structure them, because I do feel like that's getting a bit too far. But I know I don't know if other people are actually doing that. They may well be, and then that again blunts your view. And then that's why you have to realize, don't look at their physique, look at your physique, because that's all that really matters, and your progress and how you're doing, because it is all relational to you, and you can only compare yourself to yourself. And that is why we actually all love bodybuilding, because it is such an internalized, selfish sport in which everything is down to you, the individual. If you are doing everything you should be doing and you are maximizing your own progress, then brilliant. If you're not progressing as well as someone else, that's nothing you can do about that. And you can't go and program hop and hope that what they're doing is going to provide you better results. I know we all wish it were, but that's what it comes down to. And I know you see it with people all the time. And I have a few clients who will see another athlete doing something with their nutrition, doing something with their training, and they might post it online and they might have a better physique than them. And then they're coming to me and they're like, can we try this and this and this? And I'm like, but what you're doing is working really well. Why do you want to go and try someone else's things just because you've seen that they're doing it and they have a good physique and they're seeing good progress? But that might be despite what they're doing, not because of what they're doing. So it is a battleground. I think overall for Revive Stronger, social media has been fantastic. And I think we've used it in a really positive way to share good, honest information and value for our audience. And if ever we do go too far to being kind of too physique focused or anything like that, then I'm sure people will let us know. But I think part of a good reason to share your physique, to share my physique, and I don't mean this to discredit either of us, is we're not genetic elite. We are very average guys. Like, we are fortunate that we can invest such a lot of time in our training and nutrition, but we're never going to see ridiculous results. So we're never going to be the Phil Heaths, the Jared Feathers, or anyone along those lines. We don't have that just innate ability. So I think it's good that we share our progress because most people are like us. So they can kind of use us as more of a gauge and a marker. At least I like to think that. And I have had comments of people who are like, I really enjoy following your progress, Steve, because it seems so much more attainable than some other people. And in some ways I can view that as quite negative to myself, and it makes me a little bit upset and to say that I'm never going to be like this elite guy kind of hurts me a bit, because both of us are like very driven and we like perfection. But at the same time, it's like, at least like that's really good. And that's nice to hear that people find us very relatable, because we are, and we are not at this end of the bell curve either way. We are very much in the middle. So yeah, hopefully that was some useful points.
Man, that was amazing. And you know me, I always like to add something, but this time I actually leave it there.
Oh.
Because I couldn't end the show better this time. This was a fantastic sum up, also with the pros and cons. And no, amazing. I mean, really great. And one thing, perhaps a positive note we want to throw out there, is the support and interaction of the community you can achieve through social media. Like, let's take your competition prep, for example. All the positive responses you received, on all the feedback, the support on show day you received and felt is simply a great thing about social media. Yeah. And other than that, you summed it up amazing. So yeah,
Sweet.
I mean,
awesome. Well, yeah, I want to thank Pascal for coming on, for his support even in tough times as well. I do want to say that. And to everyone for following our journeys and for your support, because we do love social media. We do support it completely. And I just hope everyone uses it in as positive a way as possible. So cheers, guys. Take care.
Cheers, and thanks.